The Department of Justice just handed us 3.5 million pages of truth, but withheld 2.5 million pages of process. In the intelligence world, this is what we call a limited hangout. They give you just enough of a fire to keep you busy while they're moving the safe behind your back. Today, we're going to be looking into what they didn't want you to see. So like I said, they gave us 3.5 million pages in this recent disclosure. That's out of a total of about 6 million. So they held back about 2.5 million. And according to the DOJ, it's all for above the water things. It's all legit, nothing nefarious, right? A lot of the names mentioned in this newest release were just confirmations of names that we've already seen in the past. Names like Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. We did learn some new things about people previously mentioned. For example, we had this one of these reports came out from President Trump or about President Trump. It alleges some somewhat disturbing things. I'll get into it right quick. So the report itself read, redacted individual reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump. The friend said she was also abused by Epstein. And besides the people that we already knew about, we did learn quite a few new names that have not been mentioned at all before. Some of the big ones were Elon Musk, Christopher Poole, the founder of 4chan, Deepak Chopra, a spiritual author, and lastly, the biggest one in my opinion is Peter Mandelson, who most recently was the UK or British ambassador to the United States. So, why were these files, names, why were they released? Why now? We have to wonder why, right? Everything is done for a specific reason. But remember, guys, Pam Bondi already gave a bunch of influencers binders with pictures, guys. Come on now. We already know it all. Come on. All right. But seriously, why? Did anything change the last few times they released lists? Is anything going to change this time? Probably not. And that begs the question, what exactly was their intention? Well, if you've never heard of it, there's something called outrage exhaustion or outrage fatigue. If you haven't heard of it, well, you've definitely experienced it. Outrage fatigue, it's a form of psychological warfare. Like I said, a form of psychological warfare that's being waged against you right now and probably for the last 10, 20 years. It's crazy. And to explain it simply, pretty much intelligence agencies use this outrage fatigue or exhaustion to ensure that people's attention, energy, and outrage are focused on one thing so they don't have the energy to focus on what they're trying to actually hide, right? They get you mad at one thing so you can't be mad and look at another thing, right? And it's usually, like I said, the thing that they're trying to hide. Where's Barbara Streisand when you need her? Stupid. But the question still remains, though. Like, what are they trying to hide us from? Like, what are they trying to hide from us by releasing these 3.5 million pages, right? Well, I think the answer could be simple. Maybe they're just trying to hide from us the rest of the names and things that are still redacted. Like I said, there's 2.5 million pages that they still haven't released. And there's also still names of abusers that are still redacted on the files that we've already gotten, right? It makes total sense to have the victims' names redacted, right? We need to protect the victims, but we do not need to protect the abusers. We should be doing the exact opposite. And it's mind-blowing that we're not. We're literally protecting pedophiles, evil, bad people. We're doing the opposite of what should be done to those people, and it is infuriating. So I think there's quite a few things besides the other names that they could be distracting us from. It could have been maybe the February 3rd bill to end the government shutdown. If you didn't see, Trump added in a $75 billion part for ICE. So, I mean, if you're screaming about an island in the Caribbean, well, you aren't really reading the fine print on the $75 billion being moved into domestic surveillance. Right? Or maybe it was that the Israel government just very recently moved forward with a controversial amendment to allow the death penalty for Palestinians involved in attacks. And who decides if they're involved in attacks? Right? Is it possible that our administration thinks that one of those two events are at a boiling point? Do they think that people are finally to a point where they're over with Israel and something is going to happen because of that? Are they scared that people are fed up with ICE and all of the different things you've seen throughout our country in the last just month involved with ICE, right? I don't know. What I think is more likely, though, is that they're simply just distracting us from the names and things and whatever you want to, whatever it is that they still have not shown us from the files they've already released, from the files they just released, and from the 2.5 million pages they have yet to release. They're doing what we call a limited hangout, right? They're revealing a small part of the truth to conceal the bigger, darker truth. Or maybe it's something much, much darker. Something along the lines of societal collapse, right? We all remember disclosure, non-Epstein disclosure things. I don't want to get too specific, too detailed. But if you remember, some of the responses of why they didn't release these things were that it could destabilize, take the entire country or world and create complete worldwide turmoil. So if it's something that would literally destabilize the country and destabilize world religion, I think they should still show us. There's something even more realistic that makes even more sense than that. Usually the simple answer is the correct one. What if they're trying to distract us from a complex web of extreme white-collar financial crime? Hear me out. One of the new people mentioned was Peter Mandelson, the British ambassador to the United States. There was communications revealed between him and Epstein. And him and Epstein weren't just friends. He was allegedly feeding him the blueprint of the global financial recovery in 2008 before the public even knew the banks were at risk. That's not a friendship. That's an insider trading cartel. He was leaking market sensitive info, right, during the 2008 financial crisis. Emails detailing a $500 billion euro bailout and a $20 billion UK asset sale were forwarded to Epstein before they were public. Illegal. Mandelson just recently resigned from the House of Lords on February 3rd, and the Met Police have launched a criminal investigation. This could be just the tip of an iceberg that possibly contains proof that the institutional gatekeepers have weaved an intricate web to essentially rig the system in their favor. That might look something like having forehand market sensitive information in order to rig the stock market. If they were able to do that, maybe then they would be able to create a global control infrastructure capable of monitoring, restricting, and financially enslaving the entire world's population. I don't know why, but it feels eerily familiar. Strange. So the answer of why or how or who may not be answered today or ever. But what is clear is the what. It's plain and simple. It's outrage fatigue. It's limited hangouts. It's psychological warfare, and it's very clearly working. Look around. How many people do you see that are truly mad about the lists that have came out years ago, about the one that just came out recently? Yeah, you see people posting videos about it like I'm doing right now, but do you see people out in the street protesting? No. So it's working, and that's the point. As a society, we're already exhausted. We're fatigued from years, decades of psychological warfare. outrage exhaustion, limited hangouts, endless propaganda. The list goes on and on. And that's exactly why it's so important to stop being a consumer of their outrage. You need to start being the architect of your own peace, a sovereign mind. Here is your architecture for autonomy, the 24-hour buffer. If it's breaking news, it's broken information. Give the dust at least 24 hours to settle before you look up any sort of modern news. Choose when you want to be outraged. Secondly, you need to have an information triage. You have to very consciously decide what you are consuming with your eyes, with your ears, with your mouth, with your brain. What you consume is what you become. Be specific about what you consume. Pick specific books that are going to help you. It can look like a lot of different things, but it starts with consciously deciding what you are consuming. Remember, a pack animal follows its pack. You follow your heart. You need to stay aware, armored, and ready to fight back. This recent list disclosure won't be the last in a long line of psychological warfare. So you need to be 100% psychologically and spiritually aware. If you're ready to stop being a consumer of their chaos and start being the architect of your own peace, hit that subscribe. We're building something different here, guys. Stay aware, stay armored.